After 4 years of surviving an emotionally abusive relationship, I just found out my longtime friend secretly befriended my abuser, and my best friend of 13 years knew about it, stayed silent, and chose loyalty to her instead of me. For some context, I'm a 28-year-old woman and I dated my ex, also 28 male, for about 3 years. We broke up back in 2021, but like a lot of toxic relationships, things didn't end cleanly. We kept circling back, talking on and off, fighting, making up, and then repeating the cycle until the end of 2022. During that time, I finally had to block him everywhere: Instagram, Facebook, his phone number, literally everything. But he knew my email, and for some reason, I let that little door stay cracked open. That's how he managed to keep getting to me, even after I thought I had cut him off. Through email, he continued the same old patterns: mental games, emotional abuse, constant manipulations that left me questioning myself. It was 4 years of hell in total, and I don't use that word lightly. The last email exchange was finally my breaking point. I blocked him there too, and I've been trying to heal ever since. Fast forward to last month. I found out something that knocked the wind out of me in a way I wasn't prepared for. One of my longtime friends, we'll call her Nicole, 28F, went behind my back and befriended my ex. I need to stress this. Nicole and my ex were never friends before. They had no reason to be connected. And she knows, in detail, everything that man put me through. She's listened to me cry, vent, and rage about him. She knows the trauma he caused. I only found out by accident. Honestly, I was being petty, I admit that. I wanted to post my ex on a T app and vent anonymously, so I unblocked him on Instagram just to grab some information. And that's when I saw it in bold letters, followed by Nicole. My stomach dropped. Out of every single name in the world, hers was the one that popped up. I texted her immediately, demanding to know what the hell was going on. She brushed it off like it was nothing. She told me he had followed her first and was messaging her first, like that somehow excused it. She even tried to downplay it further by saying the most they ever talked about was a squirrel. A squirrel? Are you kidding me? Like somehow the topic makes it less of a betrayal. What made it worse was that even after our conversation, she didn't unfollow him. She kept him on her Instagram like it was no big deal. A couple weeks later, I couldn't shake the feeling, so I brought it up again. This time it was over the phone and I laid it out as clearly as I could. I reminded her of everything I went through with him, how much he damaged me, how many nights I cried over the mental and emotional torture. I told her straight up that if the roles were reversed, if her baby daddy, who, by the way, has put her through hell and is still causing her stress, reached out to me, I would never in a million years entertain that. I would block him immediately out of loyalty to her, no questions asked. I thought that point would hit home. She claimed she understood, but my gut told me otherwise. She told me something that rubbed me the wrong way. Apparently, at some point, my ex blocked her from seeing his stories. But then, once he had a new girlfriend that he loves very much, his words, apparently, he unblocked her again. And instead of taking that as the huge red flag that it is, she just let it slide. She even admitted that when he brought up the fact that he knew Nicole and I were friends, and said something like, "If you can't talk to her, that's fine," she basically told him, "Whatever happened between you two is none of my business." That response cut deep. Because it is her business, at least if she wants to call herself my friend. If you know your friend's ex is abusive, manipulative, and dangerous to her mental health, why would you ever shrug it off as not my business? Why would you continue to keep contact with him, even after knowing how much pain he caused me? Eventually, she apologized. But it felt like one of those "I'm sorry I got caught" apologies, not a genuine "I realize I crossed a boundary and betrayed you" kind of apology. I could hear it in her tone. And maybe I'm overthinking, but I can't help but feel like she doesn't actually see what's wrong with what she did. She just wants me to stop being upset, so she can keep her image of being a good friend. The whole thing has me feeling sick to my stomach. Betrayal from a partner hurts, but betrayal from a friend, someone who knows all your darkest moments, who held you through the pain, hits differently. It makes you question your judgment. It makes you question who's really in your corner. This is where my 13-year friendship comes into play. My so-called best friend, we'll call him Austin, 28M, knew every single detail of what I had been through. He knew the sleepless nights, the breakdowns, the manipulation, the way my ex chipped away at me piece by piece until I didn't even recognize myself anymore. He was there during some of the darkest moments of my life, and for over a decade, I leaned on him as one of my most trusted people. But right now, if I'm being brutally honest, Austin and Nicole, 28F, have become closer with each other than Austin has been with me. Their friendship grew over the past couple of years, and while I tried not to feel jealous or threatened by it, I see now that it came at my expense. So when Nicole made the choice to go behind my back and befriend my abusive ex, the first person she confided in was Austin. And Austin, the person I considered my ride or die, my brother in everything but blood, didn't say a word to me. He carried that knowledge for an entire week before I stumbled across it myself. A whole week of him smiling in my face, talking to me as if nothing was wrong, while knowing this betrayal was hanging over my head like a storm cloud. That silence cut me almost deeper than Nicole's betrayal. Because Nicole and I had been friends for years, but not in the same way. Austin and I had history, years of trust, loyalty, and shared trauma. If anyone should have been looking out for me in this situation, it should have been him. To make matters worse, Austin wasn't just an observer during my relationship with my ex. My ex often dragged him into our arguments, trying to manipulate the situation and gain an ally. He used Austin like a pawn, trying to get him on his side. Austin saw firsthand how toxic, manipulative, and destructive my ex could be. He knew how much I suffered. He knew how broken I was when I finally escaped that relationship. And still, when Nicole crossed that line, Austin said nothing. He didn't pull her aside to tell her she was out of line.
He didn't warn me.
He didn't even try to encourage her to do the right thing. He let her carry on and let me discover it in the most gut-punching way possible, alone, staring at my phone in disbelief. When I confronted him, his excuse was that both he and Nicole were scared to tell me because they didn't want to trigger me. As if lying by omission was somehow kinder than honesty. As if I was too fragile to handle the truth. But here's what they don't get. Finding out this way was the trigger. Finding out that two people I trusted decided to keep secrets from me was the very thing that made me spiral. The real reason deep down is obvious to me. They didn't want to tell me because Nicole didn't want to face the consequences of her actions, and Austin didn't want to get caught in the crossfire. So instead of protecting me, they protected themselves. The week leading up to my decision to cut ties with them was one of the hardest weeks I've had in years. My body was betraying me. I couldn't sleep. I'd lie awake with my heart racing, replaying every memory of my ex, every fight, every manipulative tactic, and now adding Nicole and Austin's betrayal into the mix. My appetite vanished. I barely ate. And the tears, God, I cried more in that week than I had in months. It was like reopening a wound I thought had finally scarred over. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I decided I couldn't be friends with them. So I sent them a group message. I explained how I felt, how much this hurt me, and that I couldn't do it anymore. Austin called me shortly after, clearly upset. His first reaction wasn't empathy. It was defensiveness. He told me it was wild that I was including him in something Nicole did, like he was some innocent bystander. I had to stop him right there. I reminded him that he knew. He knew what Nicole had done, and he didn't tell me. Silence is not neutrality, it's complicity. By saying nothing, he aligned himself with Nicole, whether he meant to or not. And then came the part that nearly broke me. I found myself, once again, having to re-explain everything I'd already told him 100 times before. The abuse, the manipulation, the trauma my ex put me through. I had to spell it out, as if he hadn't lived through it alongside me, as if he hadn't been there when I called him crying, as if he hadn't already seen how destroyed I was. It wasn't until I broke down on the phone, sobbing, my voice trembling as I begged him to understand, that I finally heard a sincere apology. That moment was humiliating in its own way. I shouldn't have had to bleed all over again to get my best friend to see my pain.
We talked more after that.
He said things that made me question everything, but ultimately, I decided to accept his apology. Because, how do you just throw away 13 years? He's been my best friend since high school. He's been through so many chapters of my life. And even now, with this massive crack in our friendship, part of me doesn't want to lose him. Austin pushed me to talk to Nicole, said that she loves and cares for me, and that I should at least give her the chance to explain. I told him I'd think about it. But my trust in her is hanging by a thread. I made it clear to both of them that what hurt the most wasn't just the action itself, it was the secrecy. If they had just come to me right away, if they had sat me down and told me the truth to my face, I would have reacted differently. I could have processed it in real time instead of stumbling across it like some cruel punchline. It's not just about Nicole following my ex. It's about the principle. At our age, at 28 years old, we shouldn't have to remind each other about basic friendship boundaries. I told them flat out, I would never go out of my way to befriend someone who destroyed them. I wouldn't dream of it. Loyalty isn't complicated. If someone hurts the people I love, I don't let them into my life.
Period.
And realizing that neither Nicole nor Austin could extend that same loyalty to me, that's a wound I don't know if I'll ever fully recover from. On Tuesday, I got this gut feeling that I couldn't ignore. It was one of those heavy, nagging hunches that sits in your chest until you give in. Something told me to check Laps, this picture-sharing app that's trying to be like Instagram. I unblocked my ex, scrolled through his almost 140 friends, 95% women, which was always one of the biggest fights in our relationship, and for a while, everything looked fine. Row after row of usernames I didn't recognize, random girls he clearly added for no reason. But then, on the very last row, I froze. There it was.
Nicole's username.
I can't describe the way my stomach dropped. Not only did she follow him on Instagram and chat with him, not only did she feed me those half-truths and dismiss my pain with that whatever happened between you two is none of my business line, she went out of her way to befriend him on another app. It wasn't just about Instagram anymore. It wasn't just about a squirrel conversation she brushed off. She chose, knowingly, to let my abuser into her life on multiple platforms after everything I told her about what he did to me. It's not even about jealousy. It's about loyalty. It's about friendship. It's about knowing the full scope of someone's trauma and still deciding to entertain the person who caused it. And when I saw her name on that app, I felt something inside me shatter all over again. I texted Austin right away. Told him flat out, I stand where I stand with Nicole. I blocked her on everything. Instagram, Laps, phone, all of it. She no longer has any access to my life. But the problem is bigger than her now. Because Austin knew.
And he didn't tell me.
And since I confronted him,
Silence.
2 whole days of nothing. Maybe he thinks he's giving me space since I told him I'd rather talk face to face, but the silence feels like betrayal in itself. It feels like he's sitting comfortably on her side, not mine. And that's what hurts the most. Austin has been my best friend for 13 years. He's been through it all with me, through high school drama, through heartbreaks, through the years I spent chained to my ex and the abuse that came with it. He was there when I cried my eyes out, when I thought I wouldn't make it through, when I had no one else. He was supposed to be family.
But now?
He's besties with Nicole. They tell each other everything. And I can't shake the sickening feeling that if I confide in him, if I let my guard down even a little, everything I say will eventually trickle back to her. I don't trust him anymore. I don't trust either of them. What if there's more they're hiding? What if this isn't the only thing they kept from me? The thought makes my skin crawl. My other friends and family are all on the same page. I shouldn't be friends with either of them. They see it as simple. Nicole betrayed me outright, and Austin betrayed me through silence. Loyalty should have meant telling me immediately. Loyalty should have meant shutting this down before it got to this point. Instead, I was left to find out for myself, blindsided, humiliated, and left wondering how long they would have kept me in the dark. But I keep going back and forth. On one hand, I know my family and friends are right. Trust is the foundation of any relationship, and once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. On the other hand, 13 years. 13 years of memories, of phone calls at midnight, of laughter, of inside jokes no one else would understand. How do you just throw that away? The rational part of me says that the history doesn't matter if the present doesn't feel safe. But the emotional part of me clings to it, terrified that cutting him off will mean erasing a huge piece of my life. And yet, I can't deny the truth. I don't feel comfortable with him anymore. I don't feel safe. I don't feel like I can call him my best friend, not when my trust is gone, and my gut is screaming that he chose her side over mine. So here I am, stuck in this impossible place. Do I protect my peace and cut him off, knowing it'll break my heart but maybe set me free? Or do I hang on to the friendship, knowing deep down that it'll never be the same again? Would I be the a-hole if I ended a 13-year friendship because of drama Nicole caused? Or would I finally be choosing myself after years of allowing others to cross my boundaries?